Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party, and it is welcome back to your hosts following an October break, or as we would call it in Scotland, the Tatty Holidays. As those of you who follow the podcast, the Nerd Party on social media, and the two of us on Twitter, the reason for our break was that we were both attending the London Film Festival. But we're back in the pod booth today to talk about experiences and reveal the top 5 films that we saw. I'm Dallas King, and joining me as always is the Robert Pattinson to my Willem Dafoe. It's Lee Hutchison. How are you?
I like how I'm the wanker in this situation. I'll take that.
Well, I was going to go, I thought, I'll give you the youthful one. I'm the old craggy one, the farting one. You could have been the seagull, but I think there'll probably be a bit more on that in the future. But now, before we get into the meat of the London Film Festival, we're always complaining on the A24 project that we're always behind the time. We record something and then some big news drops and whatever. But, we're recording this on Tuesday evening, and the big news today is, of course, the release of a new Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker trailer, and the fact that tickets are on sale and everyone is going bananas over it, even though I booked my tickets very excited and then realised, of course, there was actually still 2 months before I'm going to get to see the finished film. So have you booked your tickets, Lee? Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I managed to get in 2 minutes before it officially got announced. I think View jumped the gun and said at like 8:50 I was on the bus to somewhere for a meeting, and View put them up, and I went, I wonder if Cineworld have put them up. Yeah, had a wee search. There they were. I managed to get my favourite seat for the IMAX, and I went for the triple bill and option for that one. So I'll be going straight from work to a 6 p.m. at night triple bill. So yeah, pretty much be in the cinema from 6 o'clock at night to 3 a.m. the next day.
You shouldn't have it any other way, because I think I feel slightly bad that I maybe pressured you into getting the triple bill ticket, because you were saying, I don't know whether to go for the triple bill, an IMAX, or just a regular midnight screening set. And I said, just book the IMAX. You can always skip the 2 films if you want, but then you've got the IMAX for the final leg. So I've booked for I think I was the first person to book at my local Cineworld in Aberdeen, so I got my pick of the seat, so I've got my usual one there as well. Looking forward to revisiting them. Like you say, it's going to be a long night. 6 p.m. means there should be at least a half-hour break between films to basically sit there and do nothing and complain about the fact that you just wait to see the next film because you're going to be knackered in the morning. But hey, we've got a new trailer to try and whet our appetites to keep us going for another 2 things. What did you make of it?
Well, I kind of woke up this morning. I woke up a little. My girlfriend's bought this light thing at the moment where the light will kind of start to gradually kind of switch on in the morning to sort of ease her into the day. Where as soon as it kind of switches on, I get up. So I was kind of lying in bed like half an hour before she stirs. It's like 40 minutes before I even need to think about getting out of bed. So I just grabbed my earphones, watched the trailer that had dropped overnight in the UK time, and watched it. And then I watched it again sort of an hour or so later on the TV. I was kind of underwhelmed with the trailer. I kind of like how it seems to be keeping it sort of powdered dry, really, but I just found it kind of visually a bit boring, to be honest. It felt like, this whole scene where you see them sort of in the throne room with the lightsabers out sort of looked like a PlayStation 2 cutaway, and this whole thing of you see all these ships coming together in some sort of armada. It's all very grey and blue and kind of similar to Solo. It just sort of blends in together, and I just, while these ships are all diverse, they all seem to have the same sort of Aztec kind of colour design. There's nothing sort of differentiating them, a bit of colour, a bit of spice. So I just kind of found the trailer a bit visually boring, to be honest. I really like the trailers that they've done for sort of this new trilogy, but I found this one sort of, it's got a bit dull by this point. This sort of, the voiceover, it's a bit slow and grand, and then it's kind of got the imagery underneath it. It's sort of played that hand a few too many times now. So I was kind of overall pretty bored with the trailer, and I don't even know why I was debating, will I just go to the midnight solo screening, or will I go to this triple bill? I was always going to go to the triple bill. It's the best way to probably experience these things, make a bit of an event of it. If they were doing like a 1 to 9, I would have given that a shot. So I'm looking forward to it. The trailer isn't the be all and end all for these types of things. I was hyped for the Last Jedi trailer. I was a bit disappointed with that film. I love the Force Awakens trailers, like that film a lot. So it really doesn't match up to what I might finally experience.
Yeah, no, I think I get what you're saying, because I think they're story wise, there's not really much given away. A few snippets here and there of sort of a few lightsaber fights. There's going to be some space fights. There's going to be moments of the main characters joining together. There's see that C-3PO moment where he's talking about, I'm just taking one last look at my friends, and it's like just reminded me of, what is it, the Mad Men quote, like John Hamm just going, nostalgia, it's potent. And it's like they're clearly appealing to the sort of the people not with Star Wars. They're making a big thing about this being the final Skywalker movie. It's like, this is the end of it. You were never, they could have just basically put the Rise of Skywalker December 18th or December 19th on the trailer. That would have worked, because people are already going to see it. I don't know if this trailer maybe would entice anyone who's new to the franchise to go and see it just on its own. I think we're in as someone in another franchise once said, we're in the end game now. This is going to be it. But I think for me, it was okay, but then it's that when the sort of John Williams score, when he sort of tweaked it and he sort of got almost like a slowed down version of it for like the final minute of the trailer, that I get goosebumps every time, and it worked for me. So it was John Williams' score more than I think got me into it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm almost hoping for maybe like a double face heel turn here, where everyone sort of, it's going to be the redemption of Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, but maybe Rey will go to the dark side and we'll have a double face turn. That'd be something quite I'd be excited to see. But I'm excited to see it. I'm looking forward to the triple bill. I just booked a ticket for myself. My wife did come to see Last Jedi with me at a regular screening. She did very generously come to see the midnight screening of The Force Awakens, but she said she didn't want to do another midnight one. I thought it's far too late, and I just don't think I'd be able to entice her into a sort of 9-hour triple bill this time round. But we will go see it again, just the two of us, for the final installment, just to see, because she did really actually enjoy The Last Jedi. She found it very yogic, so but I think it was interesting to see. I did see someone on Twitter sort of saying J.J. Abrams does love a ship sort of appearing out of water, sort of using one of the tropes from the Star Trek movies as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he tries to tie it all together, because Rian Johnson has admittedly sort of gone off on some tangents which were divisive to many who watched it. So it's going to be interesting to see if he sort of retcons a lot of that and comes back around. But I guess we've got 2 months to speculate and create loads of rumours, and also find out which crusty old white male directors are also not fans of the Star Wars franchise, similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. Has anyone asked Clint Eastwood what he thinks of Star Wars?
I'm sure someone's going to ask an empty chair on his behalf.
Exactly. But of course, as we mentioned at the outset, we were at the London Film Festival and we're going to review our top 5, but I think this was my first trip to the London Film Festival, and I managed to watch 25 films in 8 days. 23 of them were in the festival. I also watched a preview of Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon and The Joker on 70mm. But Lee, you've been before, how did this sort of rate for you in terms of the festival, and also did you manage to sort of beat any previous years in terms of your viewing figures? How was it for you?
Yeah, I saw 39 films, and I think it was like 33 or something like that. I was at the festival a couple days longer this year. I think the lineup was incredible this year. It felt like, there's always some middling films, that's to be expected, but it was just an incredible run of films. The talent that was attending was fantastic. I just thought it was a really all-round great year. I saw 39 films, and then I saw 4 films outside of the festival, 5 I think perhaps. So yeah, I had a really great time, and it was good to have someone like yourself down there as well this time, and we had a good crowd of us there in the mornings, and having the reclining seats this year all made it all the more enjoyable, and perhaps sometimes in the less enjoyable moments it made it all the more relaxing to be in the cinema. So yeah, a really special year. How did it how was it for you? Obviously, this is your first time. How did it compare to the hype and buzz that the festival kind of creates when you're on the outside looking in?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, in terms of quality, much higher than I actually thought it probably would be. Looking at my list, there was maybe only sort of a few sort of 1 or 2 star films, but there was a lot of sort of 4 and 5 star films, so I was very happy with that. I was lucky enough to stay with my sister, so I saved money on accommodation, but I was out in Zone 4, so there was a lot of travel time built into those days, especially on, say, like a Sunday where they would want a film to start at 8 a.m, which meant you had to come up with a very convoluted travel route, but I think it was all worth it in the end. I mean, the recliners were very nice. I don't normally, in Aberdeen, we don't have any reclining chairs, so this was new for me. How did that work, particularly in The Irishman? Did it cause you to fall asleep? Or?
No, I think it was one of those ones. It was like the last few miles of a marathon. It was just like, just get it done, get it done. I was in a recliner seat, but I managed to stay awake for that one. I was just determined that I was going to make it to the end. And it was very rare that I sort of dozed off at any point during sort of the morning films. I think it would be sometimes more the afternoons, sort of late evenings, when it would kind of be a bit of a struggle to keep my eyes open or just rest my eyes for a few seconds as I turn the film into an audiobook. But yeah, the Irishman certainly held up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was able to stay awake through all the films. I can't say the same for some of our fellow critics who were in the rows either in front, beside, or behind me, because I definitely did hear some audible snoring at some points. But I'll blame the very long days that we were at the festival rather than the quality of the films for those. So let's sort of dive into our top 5, and we can maybe sort of talk about some of the other highlights of the festival along the way. But so what have you got at your number 5?
So I've decided to do a bit of a heel turn here, and me and you have sort of exchanged before, sort of we didn't plan on this, but you know, we naturally post these things on Twitter, what our best films of the festival are. So I'm picking my alternative 5 films that I know you've only seen one of them on this top 5 list, and you know, I know that's not in your top 5, so just for some variety, so it didn't sound like a little echo chamber of we're both agreeing on sort of A24 films or what have you, and Netflix films. Decided to do something a little different there. So these films are, you know, some are in my top 5, and I know you haven't seen them, and some have just been off my top 5, because I think we had 4 out of the same 4 out of 5 films are the exact same, if I recall correctly.
I think so. I think the top 3 were exactly the same, although maybe in just a ever so slightly different order. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna come at me with here. What have you got for us?
So I've gone for my first film, and that's The Report. So this one will be dropping on Amazon in the coming weeks and months in America, and in the UK it will be getting released sort of through Curzon. So The Report stars Adam Driver, who seemed to be making kind of an entrance really in the festival this year. So he plays a Senate staffer, Daniel Jones, who's tasked by his boss, I forget her name.
Annette Bening, was it?
Annette Bening, Annette Bening as Senator Dianne Feinstein, to investigate the CIA's post 9/11 detention and interrogation program, and along the way he uncovers some shocking secrets. So this was one I was really excited going into. I really like these sort of procedural kind of political movies where things kind of play out and it's not huge and grandiose. It's very much people talking in rooms or in back closets and so on, and this film certainly delivered on that. I think what made it such an exciting film during the festival was you almost had to laugh that I think someone brought up in one of the question and answer sessions afterwards that the real life Daniel Jones, this sort of patriot, this person who had done right by his country, was there, and people had switched on their phones, and it was like more whistleblowers have come out in America about Donald Trump's sort of Ukraine scandal, and it was just a really fascinating insight into what's it like when you find that potentially your only avenue to facilitate a good political change could be to whistleblow. And it was just a really great film. I thought Adam Driver was excellent in it. Annette Bening was a pitch perfect Dianne Feinstein. It had a really excellent cast, and it was interesting to sort of see the political grey in a film like this. It would be so easy to go, hey, the Republicans were terrible, they had this program, but it sort of paints the sides of both sort of the Obama administration and the Bush administration as being very kind of, you know, on the wrong side of history in some cases, and when it came to torture, and this person down the middle. I think it was a really excellent film, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays when it gets such a wide audience through Amazon Prime.
Absolutely. This is one that I missed during the festival, but I am excited to be able to catch it on, probably on Amazon Prime. I know it's getting a sort of a minor cinematic release, but it's probably not going to make its way up to Aberdeen, so I will catch it on a streaming service. So at number 5 for me, I'm going with Knives Out. Now, this was my number 1 pick for the festival. This was my most anticipated one because I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan, but I've got it at number 5. There were 4 other films which I thought were better, which was potentially a bit of a surprise, but it certainly played very well at the screenings that we were at, and also across the festival. Now, this is a modern day take on the sort of old school murder mystery style thing where a group of people gather to an elaborate mansion. Someone is found dead, and then the police or a private detective must figure out who did it. And the private detective in this case is Daniel Craig, with a New Orleans accent, and he is and a wonderful name of Benoit Blanc, and he's got to find out who killed Christopher Plummer. And I mean, it certainly started off quite in a very interesting way, in that it sort of sets up a situation where it seems apparent that actually someone did kill him, and they're trying to actually, in a sort of Columbo type way, sort of put the detective off the scent. But then there's always a sort of twist in the tale, and it was one that was delivered quite well. But for me, I thought that it was maybe signposted a bit too early. I was maybe expecting something a bit trixier, and I was also maybe wanting a bit more of the sort of family bickering between the people involved. Because when you've got a cast of like Toni Collette, Michael Shannon, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Chris Evans and stuff, the opportunity to see them sort of verbally spar with each other is a wonderful thing. And I thought maybe that could have lent into a bit more of that. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, I thought this one was really good as well. Again, I was surprised by that. I thought with such a huge cast there would be a lot more mingling and playing off each other. That certainly isn't the case, and I think one of these films, I think it was one of the more enjoyable films of the festival. It was just a good time to be had, I think, with this one, which was really pleasant. I think it's... Yeah, it would have. I wanted to see some more of these actors, like the Jamie Lee Curtises, get a bit more to kind of play with. But what I got, nonetheless, was really impressive. And I think the surprise of the film was sort of, I forget her name. She plays the maid in the film. She was someone that, when you see all these big names, the Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, and so on, you think, oh yeah, I can't wait to see these guys in action. So it was great to see something like that. So, I felt we got something nice in return at the expense, perhaps, of what I expected.
Yeah, because, I mean, the trailer certainly focused on the family, but it's the main character turns out to be the sort of nurse who was looking after Christopher Plummer's character, and she's played by Ana de Armas, who was Joy, the sort of computer-generated love interest of Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner 2049, but she... it's almost like a double-hander with her and Daniel Craig for a lot of the time, and apparently he was so impressed with her, working with her on this film, that he basically made sure that she got a role in the new Bond film. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Definitely the Bond film is starting to go back up in terms of my expectations between sort of the teamwork of them in this film, and then also, of course, the addition of Phoebe Waller-Bridge on the script as well. I think that could be something really quite special. But I think it's, like you say, it's a real sort of crowd pleaser. I think it's going to play very well to audiences, and I know Knives Out was probably a sort of meta reference from Rian Johnson to the critics following The Last Jedi, but I think this is going to be... I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this one, so I'm excited to see how it plays once it's released. I think it's November 27th, or if you're in the UK and have an unlimited card, there's a screening a couple of days in advance, so you can book now for that one as well. So what have you got next for us?
Yeah, this was one that I owe all to you, to be honest. I can't remember what I was going to go see, I took a recommendation from you and I went along with you to go see a film called Run, so written and directed by Scott Graham. So this is the first of two Marley Sue films of the festival that really stood out for me. So set in the northern Scottish town of Fraserburgh, a young man dreams of escapism through late night drag races. Finney used to be one of the lads, but now he works at a fist factory, and it's now his son's turn to dream and race. So until one night when Finney steals the boy's car for one last joyride. So I remember hearing that sort of description and sort of eye rolling a little bit. I've always considered, I think, the term boy racer is how it's often described these kind of folk. It didn't appeal to me, the sound of that, but I went along and I was really blown away. This was one of my sort of real surprises of the festival. It was very relatable because I sort of, similar to yourself, grew up in that rural kind of Aberdeenshire kind of world, and I know what it's like, you know, the people that stayed in those villages, that settled down, got married really young, had kids before, you know, I'm 32, you know, I've got people that I know that lived in that kind of woods that have already on to their second kid, and the kids are now at like high school and so on, which just blows my mind. But I was always interested to see that frustration, that urge and wish to sort of escape kind of rural Aberdeenshire life, and I think this film perfectly encapsulates that. I think it was perfectly acted. I think it's had such a great cast. Marley Sue's continuing to sort of star and pick unique choices here. Mark Stanley as Finney as well, just one of these kind of breakout performances for someone like him. It was just something that had everything really in it, and what I expected in sort of a low budget British film, and I think it's a great advert for sort of Scottish cinema and an area of the country that is sorely underrepresented on television and film.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad that you enjoyed it because, yeah, no, it was always potentially a risk. You know, I mean, sometimes you've got to take a chance with these festivals, and you know, sometimes the gap fillers, which essentially this was for you, turns out to be you know, one of the best of the fest, and I really like this film. I hadn't realised it was only like on a sort of maybe third or fourth sort of browse of the brochure that I realised that this was Scott Graham's new film. I really loved Shell when it came out. It was just a really excellent debut. Similar sort of story of this girl who works in a petrol station in sort of the rural Highlands, just dreaming of escape and stuff, and a better life somewhere else. And he's sort of done this away. A lot of it's born sort of slightly autobiographically from his time growing up there, and so he sort of really sort of captures the feel and the grit of the situation, the frustration of him. I mean, this is the second film of this year to have been inspired by Bruce Springsteen songs, with the run being Born to Run as the tattoo on the chest of this boy racer has as well. But I think it's something I wanted to see because of like my sort of family is from sort of the Peterhead area, so you know I've seen that sort of life in that sort of world. So it's really well acted and really well sort of represented on screen, and I think this could be a breakout hit in Scotland, similar to maybe to sort of Beats this year as well. I think it's something that, I mean, we've heard rumours that it may appear at the Glasgow Film Festival, and hopefully Scott Graham's certainly someone that we're going to hopefully try and get on the show at a future date as well. But it's definitely a high recommendation from me as well, I think. So my number 4 is Colour Out of Space. Now, this is a film by Richard Stanley, who was not really seen on the big screen, but his last film was the infamous Marlon Brando featuring adaptation of The Island of Dr. Moreau, where he was fired after a few weeks of working on it, and yeah, he hasn't been able to get a completed film on the big screen since, but he finally has, sort of nearly 24 years later or something like that, and it was something else. It's based on an Edgar Allan Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft poem, short story, and it features Nicolas Cage as an alpaca farmer whose life and family is completely disrupted when a meteorite lands in his farm's backyard, and things start to go a little bit haywire. It starts off as a sort of regular sort of sci-fi thing, but then morphs into this incredible sort of completely out there body horror sort of thing, and it's all just completely bonkers, but done in the best possible way. And this was one of the most enjoyable experiences I had at the film festival. I saw it with a sold-out Prince Charles crowd, to the point where they were maybe a bit too into it, in the, you know, this is peak Nicolas Cage in that some of his line readings are completely off the chart, and there was a Q&A with the cast and crew afterwards, and they basically admitted that they never really knew what he was going to do or which way he was going to go with a line. But this crowd basically laughed at every single thing he said. I don't think it was necessary for them to laugh at every single thing he said. Certainly some things, but not everything. But in the end, I think it really added to this to the film experience. And I don't know if it's one that's going to get a major cinematic release, but I think it's one that will become a cult hit in a few years, similar to Mandy from last year. But I think from our discussions at the film festival, this one maybe fell into the sort of Mandy camp for you as well, did it?
Yeah, I think it went sort of. It's unfair on the film. I think, for example, I went along after your sort of recommendation, and I sort of maybe it was a different audience for me. I didn't see it in the Prince Charles. I went to see it in. I think it was like an Odeon screening, and I think it was like 6:30 at night. I remember being just so tired during it, and I enjoyed the film. I thought it was visually very interesting, fantastic score. I think it's a really enjoyable film, but I just wasn't connecting with it on that evening, and it was just, that was perhaps more down to me than the film. I really wanted to stay for a Q&A afterwards. Myself and a mate went along to see the film, and we were really blown away by Richard Stanley's introduction. He was sort of making fun of all the directors that have tried to make an H.P. Lovecraft film, and perhaps focusing on making like an Aquaman instead. And we were like, oh yeah, we'll definitely stay for the Q&A. Got to the end of the film, we were so tired, we're like, let's just sly and sneak off now. So yeah, I perhaps wasn't in the right frame of mind for that film at that time, sadly.
Yeah, no, I think you had a similar experience with Mandy last year, that it was unfortunately just at that sort of mid-festival lull where you need to try and, because I mean, I did, I think on the Tuesday night, I think I decided to sack off a screening or something and have an early night, like try and get home about 8 or something like that. So yeah, we all need an early night and a break from the films, because people say oh, you're just watching films all day, but it is almost like a job, and when you're doing it for nearly 12 hours each day, it can sometimes get a bit much. But luckily there's some more films which you did enjoy more than this one. So what have you got for us at number 3?
Yeah, this is a film that people will be able to catch a lot more of in the kind of coming weeks and months, and that's Monos. So it's all about sort of a group of commandos that are left behind to sort of do military training exercises while watching over a prisoner of war, except sort of these group of commandos are young, early teens, and it is an absolutely fantastic film. I think this film, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up for the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film. I think it's going to face a bit of a fight from Parasite as the big dog, but this is something really special. Picture House have bought the rights for this film, so you should be able to kind of catch it in sort of your local Picture House film in the sort of coming weeks and months. But yeah, this is sort of like Apocalypse Now with drugs thrown in. It's incredible to watch these young kids sort of put through sort of a grueling sort of military training while sort of being in command of young kids. It's just mind-boggling to watch. But one of the things that makes it stand out for me, and I never realised until I started watching the film, is that the incredible soundtrack is from Mika Levy, who did the Under the Skin score that is so incredibly memorable. So this is a film that will show you sort of how how the other half live. We kind of talk about how kids in the UK, they're stuck to their phones, they don't go out anymore, and so on. This shows you sort of how young kids are perhaps treated in sort of other necks of the world, and sort of how in places like Colombia, these sorts of things can happen, and it's incredible. It's you'll never care for a cow as much as you do in this film. So definitely well worth checking out, and it's going to be one that I think people will regret if they don't go see it in the cinema. Yeah, no, this was one that everyone was buzzing about at the festival. I'd missed the press screening because just the way it worked. I think with Picture House Central being out of the equation for press screenings this year, there was only the View, and so therefore they had to start them in a couple of weeks in the run up to the festival. So I missed this one, and fate conspired, even trying to get a ballot ticket for it, unsuccessful. But I do know that it's coming to my local independent cinema in a couple of weeks, so I'll definitely be catching this out. And it was indeed voted, it won Best Film at the London Film Festival. It won the top prize in the official competition. So yeah, it's great that Picture House have backed this one for a full cinema release, and I think from what I hear, it will be. I think it's Columbia's
nomination for the best foreign language film, so I think it's going to be a hell of a category this year. So excited to see this one, because I didn't hear anyone have a bad word to say about it, and knowing that Mika Levy did the score as well is just another reason, a cherry on the top for that one, I think. Cool. So we're on to my number 3, and it's one which I know we definitely both enjoyed, and it was, but some didn't enjoy it from looking at Twitter the morning after this, and it was the London Film Festival's surprise film choice. And as we correctly predicted on the A24 project, well, I say correctly predicted, we're keeping our fingers crossed and wishing that it did indeed turn out to be Uncut Gems. And there was people that were very excited about this. There was people that did not care for it, and there was people who really enjoyed it but were slightly annoyed that the surprise screening started late by 20 minutes, meaning that they were definitely going to miss their last bus or tube home. I didn't get back to my sister's until about nearly 1:30 by the time, but it was completely worth it. I don't think I've had a more tense 2 hours and 15 minutes in the cinema in a long, long time, and I think you can testify that there was an audible reaction from me. I nearly jumped out of my seat and gasped at one particular moment, and this is the film which will turn people around on all Adam Sandler Netflix films are bad, because this is getting a release on Netflix in the UK, and I think a limited release in cinemas in the US, but will be on Netflix there as well. And it's the Safdie brothers follow-up to Good Time, which, if you listen to the current episode of the A24 project, you can hear us talk all about it on there. But this is just another slice of genius from them. It's about a diamond and jewelry dealer in New York City who attempts to basically get out of a debt problem by basically increasing larger and larger problems of debt and just digging a larger and larger hole for himself. And the thrill of it comes basically from, he's not a nice guy, but you're basically drawn into his story so much that you are willing him to succeed all the way. And yeah, it's one of the tensest films you're going to watch in a long, long time, and it's safe to say A24 have another gem on their hands here. What did you make of it?
Absolutely loved it. I thought for months that it was going to be the surprise film when it wasn't in the programme. I had some doubts at some points when sort of people were talking about Parasite, and I was like, no, it's going to be Uncut Gems. I was so sure of it. And then when they sort of were like on the night, okay, the filmmakers can't be here, but there's a message. And I was like, filmmakers, plural, yes, it's going to be Uncut Gems. I was so happy. And then they had this little video introduction where it's like a jewel shop, and I was like, hell yes. So yeah, this was a film that I had high expectations for it, perhaps a little too high going in, but it certainly went beyond those ones. I love films like this where it's so incredibly tense. I mean, you've got this 2 hours 15-minute movie where you're just so uncomfortable the whole time you can't sit still. People are making decisions that are stressing you out, and I just love that. And I think it has one of the best climaxes of the year. It pays off all the hard work and investment in the film. I just think it's going to be I don't know how well it'll have an impact on Netflix, for example. I think the best way to view this would be in the cinema if you get the chance. I think the anxiety and stress might be dissipated in people's living rooms when they can pause it and go to the toilet, etc. I think when you're in there in the grind, I think it makes for a hell of an experience, and one I think people should really check out.
Absolutely. I think it was a palpable sense of unease and tension in the cinema, which is impressive for a cinema auditorium as large as the Odeon Lux Leicester Square. But yeah, I think there's certainly some people that were not fans. They maybe found it a bit too tense. I saw some complaints that it was the right choice for the surprise film. I mean, it's certainly a world away from the more audience friendly Green Book of last year, but I just thought it was a really bold, brash choice, and Trishul Tuttle, who's taken over sort of programming of the London Film Festival the last couple of years, is really making a statement, I thought, with this particular choice. And yeah, I think it's around about 13th of December in the US, and I think late January in the UK, but it's going to be mentioned, I'm sure, on future episodes of the A24 project, so you'll definitely want to check this one out when you can. So what have you got next for us?
Yeah, I've gone for another surprise film, and it's the second Marley Sue film of the list, and that is Our Ladies. So in 1990, Scotland, a group of Catholic schoolgirls get the opportunity to go from Edinburgh, from the Highlands, for a choir competition, but they're more interested in drinking, partying, and hooking up than winning the competition. So this was a film that I thought could go either way. It could be a bit eye-rolling, embarrassing perhaps, but I thought it delivered on one of the kind of most enjoyable films of the year, and it went down well with an English press audience, well, largely English press audience, and I would love to see what this is going to play like back home. I just think you watch this film and just the characters are so full of life. They're drawn well. You know, the comedy is a little bit broad at points, but you want some films like this sometimes. It was great to see Edinburgh. The geography of the city was a little all over the place. It might give Trainspotting 2 a run for their money, but you know, it's singing comedy. It's probably Scotland's version of sort of The Hangover. It's based on a book. I forget the name of it, for example, but I heard that Derry Girls was, they originally wanted to adapt that book into the TV show, but when they couldn't, because the director Michael Caton Jones is sitting on the rights, he's wanted to make this film for 2 decades, they went off and made Derry Girls. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how, you know, there's definitely an audience for something like this, and I can't wait to see how it goes down in Scotland when it probably gets released next year.
Yeah, no, this is one which I'm definitely going to be trying to check out based on your recommendation. And I think even at the public screenings, I think it was a real sort of crowd pleaser. So I think it could be this year, well, next year's Wild Rose, I think, which was a London Film Festival film last year, which really played well in its home country of Scotland. So I think this could be the next sort of breakout hit for Scotland. So and I always laugh at these sort of geographical things, and I think you said that what is it? There's the Harry Potter shop is still on Victoria Street despite being set in 1996, and Harry Potter came out in 1997, but. I guess we'll maybe let them off. But you said they changed other stores, but not that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the film was finished with just a day or two to go until the festival. So I imagine perhaps by the time Glasgow or release next year in Scotland, they might have picked up on one or two of those little inaccuracies.
Okay, well, we'll keep your eyes peeled for that one. But I'm sure there was nothing as egregious as running up Coburn Street to then find yourself on a Castle Terrace car park. Trainspotting 2 still bugs me. So my number 2 is one of the best reviewed films of the festival, and our second appearance of Mr. Adam Driver in this episode, and that was Marriage Story. This is the new film by Noah Baumbach, another Netflix release. Netflix had a very good festival, probably the second best festival behind a certain other distributor who we're fans of, and this tells the story of a married couple played by Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson who are going through a divorce, and they want to try and keep their kid out of it, and they want to do it all amicably. But once a couple of LA divorce lawyers in the form of Laura Dern and Ray Liotta get involved, things start to get ugly. And this was just a real sort of emotional sucker punch to the gut, this film, and probably not helped by the sort of raw emotions of sort of watching it at 8 on a Sunday morning. But this one really got to me, and I was surprised how funny it was as well at times. It's really funny, but also incredibly sad. There's some real sort of kicker moments. There's sort of like an Adam Driver lip wobble, which nearly got me. Now, I don't cry at films, but that was one moment that really got me. And talking about sort of press reactions, this has a moment which caused some people, I'm not going to spoil the moment because it's best to be enjoyed, but it basically caused some press to, and I nearly did it as well, to break out in spontaneous applause at one point, which was something you'd not normally see at press screenings. Public screenings, sometimes when the audiences are a bit more invested, but press screenings, I've never really seen something like that before. And, it's based in part on sort of Noah Baumbach's own experience of sort of going through a divorce with Jennifer Jason Leigh after getting involved with Greta Gerwig, but who was on the red carpet for this. So close, G. Lee, so close. It just didn't happen. But, maybe in the future, if we get to do Little Women red carpet somewhere, maybe it will happen. But you were a big fan of this one as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I absolutely adored this one. This was another 5 out of 5 film for me. I love Noah Baumbach. I think it's his most traditional film in a way. It has all the trappings in terms of his dialogue, but in terms of story, the sort of the mumblecore is gone, and sort of he's sort of, you know, perhaps grown up, and perhaps some people have said that, you know, according to some of his critics. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm really keen to see it again. I just thought the dialogue was excellent. It was savage, and I'm really keen to see this one again in the cinema before catching on Netflix.
Yeah, no, I think this is one that will appear that Netflix are going to give a huge push when it comes to sort of Oscar time. I think Adam Driver is a shoe-in for a nomination. I think there's some scenes which you can already, I mean, if they didn't have so many sort of swear words in them, I think it would be used as his Oscar clip. You know, the scene where the two of them are just laying into each other is just like, so, you're just like unable to breathe at that point. And then Scarlett Johansson, you know, is been through a bit of criticism recently, but I think she shows that when she has the right role, she can actually be one of the best. She's got a wonderful scene where she sort of lays it all out to Laura Dern about why she's wanting to give up on her relationship with Charlie and on the other side of the country and stuff like that. And Laura Dern is fantastic in this as well, and I think it will do really well. But it's one film that I'd be interested to hear the viewpoints of people who are married and who aren't married. It's certainly one that gave me a bit of a wake-up call, and it's like, well, I need to be a better husband. I mean, I like to think that I'm a good husband, but I think you can always be better, because I certainly, seeing the way that this couple disintegrates over the course of the movie, it's like, I never want to go through that, so I want to make sure that my marriage lasts and sticks, so I'm willing to do whatever it takes to please my wife. Happy wife, happy life, that's what they say. So it'd be interesting to see. I think between this and Midsummer, 2019 has been a hell of a year for breakup movies, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones. It could be easy to watch Marriage Story and think, I'm never proposing to a woman or a man in my life. It was. It would be interesting to see what its effect is on future generations.
Absolutely. Although, you know, it's a spoiler to. I think it's a spoiler to say. But, you know, not necessarily for Marriage Story, but at least no one gets burnt inside a bear this time. So there are some light at the end of the tunnel, I think. And it is a strange double bill of movies that we saw at the festival in which Scarlett Johansson ties people's shoelaces. So yeah, there you go. So what have you got for us at the very top spot in your alternate list?
Yeah, this is a film that is in my top 5 and I wish I could have seen with you, and that's A24's Waves by Trey Edward Schultz. So I know that we both enjoyed Krisha. We were very split on his last film, It Comes at Night. I wasn't a fan. You gave it a strong 5 out of 5. And then Waves came along, and I wasn't too sure what to make of the trailers. It seemed to be sort of pushing more for a mood than a plot. And then, wow, this film kind of completely blew me away. I was shocked and stunned, and I think the less you know going into this film, the better, because I think it's a masterpiece, to be honest. We've got an interview with Trey Edward Schultz in the cast that we can't drop until January time, till the UK release. It's got a fantastic cast. Kelvin Harris Jr. is back from It Comes at Night. Lucas Hedges, Alexa Demi from mid-90s, but most recently Euphoria, and Sterling K. Brown, and it's set in sort of South Florida, and it's all about a suburban African-American family led by a well-intentioned but domineering father as they navigate love, forgiveness, and coming together in the aftermath of loss. So I would say it's very difficult to talk about why this film is so great without spoiling it. So all I'm going to say is the trailers are very much showing this is a mood piece. It's playing to what this family are like and sort of what you could maybe get into with this film. There's going to be a lot to discuss and experience. I think once that film's been released, we can talk about it more. I know it sounds like a cop-out, but anything I say about why I love this film would absolutely ruin that film. And it's not in the trailers at this point. It's not had a public release yet. So I'm going to sit on it for a while and say that you absolutely must check out this film. It is a masterpiece.
Well, it's very, very high praise there indeed. And yeah, it was one that was a late addition to the festival, but unfortunately the press screening was before I got down, and then the screenings were after I'd left. So I'm going to be one of those people who will have to wait till January to see it and see if it lives up to the hype. But The trailer had me intrigued because it has got sort of some echoes of Moonlight, and it's interesting that it's sort of written and directed by sort of Trey Schultz, who is a white man, and he is directing essentially a story about an African American family. So that was intriguing in itself to see how that was going to play out. But you've got me hooked, and I'm very intrigued to see how this one plays out. But I mean, I heard a lot of people sort of raving about this one, basically sort of instant classic, 5 stars. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out around Oscar time as well, because A24 have a few films they could be pushing, but it's going to be interesting to see if this one sort of hits that sort of Moonlight sweet spot, because they have got another Oscar campaign going at the moment for another film, and it is my film of the festival. It was the first film I saw, and nothing really topped it after that, and it was one of our most anticipated films of the year, and that is The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as a couple of lighthouse keepers, or wickies, who slowly go mad when they are stranded upon an island inside the lighthouse. And tormented, I think it's fair to say, by one of the sporting characters of the year, Steven Seagal, and there are reasons why I think we maybe more than others appreciated this film. There are scenes with a character being tormented by a seagull that will, I think, be recognisable and relatable to anyone who's grown up in Aberdeen, who has ever had a sausage roll or a pasty or a kebab stolen by a seagull wandering around Union Street. So, this was just an incredible piece of filmmaking from the moment it started with the soundtrack, with using the sort of foghorn and the churning of a boat moving towards the island. I knew this was something special. The cinematography is just fantastic. It's all done in black and white, and Willem Dafoe in particular has one of those faces that was sort of designed to be in black and white movies, and just the two of them sort of playing off each other, this sort of old craggy Captain Birdseye sort of guy versus the sort of quiet up and comer who just wants to get through a couple of weeks' work, make some money, and then get off again. And he has to deal with this sort of farting, belching pirate almost of a guy, and just the places it goes to are completely unexpected, but it's just this crazed sort of fever dream trip of a movie, and I loved every sort of demented minute of it. What about yourself?
Yeah, it was my favourite film of the festival. It's now my favourite film of the year in the home stretch. I just thought it was incredible. The one thing is, like, you watch it and experience it the first time, and I think it's sort of true to these films that have been the highlights of the festival for us. One viewing wasn't enough. You're like, okay, I want to see it again now. And sometimes these films then have the frustration of you wait months for it to get a release, perhaps in the UK. We're kind of good that we're going to get a flurry of them in the coming weeks and months. But this one is one that's going to keep us waiting until January. And it's just, you want to be able to talk about it. You want to go into spoilers, divulge things, talk about the funny moments, the surprises. But you kind of have to shut your mouth, and that's the difficult thing with these films. It's just like, you just want to see it again, but you want to see it with like all the other people that you know and the general public, so you can sort of really dive into it. I think this was just fantastic. I just think it cemented Robert Eggers as a true auteur.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we were both fans of The Witch, and we were lucky enough to cover the red carpet, and we were able to speak to Robert Eggers on the red carpet about filmmaking and seagulls, and you can catch that on a couple of previous episodes on the filibuster. We had a special interview special from the festival, and you can catch that. But we were lucky enough to see a Witch reunion on the red carpet. We had Kate Dickie, Ralph Ineson, Finchy. He threw a kettle over a pub. What have you done? And also Anya Taylor-Joy as well. So it was great to see, and yeah, he showed a huge amount of promise in The Witch, and he's definitely sort of followed that up with this one as well. I think he is a true auteur. He is a master of this. Even, I think it was on the red carpet, he said this wasn't a horror film. I don't think it's necessarily a horror film. It's more of a sort of captivating drama and sort of study of sort of madness and a weird sort of friendship, father-son sort of relationship. And yeah, it's definitely one I need to see with an audience again. I think when I used to work at the Belmont Cinema, there was a couple of films that, The Orphanage and The Descent, there was a couple of moments where I basically would go in and stand at the back of the room just to see the audience reaction of. And I think there's definitely one particular moment which I want to see with an audience again and again and again to see what they do. But I think there's a few moments that are just going to be just standout moments of thing. It cannot be a film of the year for me because I stick to the rule of it has to be released in 2019. But it was definitely my number one film of the festival, and will likely be one of my top films of 2020 as well. And we just noticed, this is some late breaking A24 news. You noticed just before recording that they've got a Lighthouse product available on the A24 shop. It might already be sold out by now, we don't know, but you can get your own sort of wiki grooming kit with some wiki beard oil and a bar of soap in the shape of a mermaid. Why that is relevant to the plot, again, we don't want to spoil it, but you can get some Lighthouse merch available now. So definitely for us, film of the festival, and can't wait to see it next year when it finally gets released in the UK. It's released at the moment now in the US, so it's on a platform rollout, so make sure you do catch it if you're an A24 fan. And further proof, I think, that the ghost of Twilight is dead in terms of Robert Pattinson, and he is. I can't wait to see what he does with Batman as well, I think.
I'm so hyped for that. Like, if there's one kind of big kind of comic book movie that's got me excited, it's definitely that one.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember, I think, when Jack Nicholson got Batman in the Tim Burton one, I think Willem Dafoe was at one point muted for the Joker, so maybe based on this they might be able to bring him back into the fold, and he could be the 107th person to take on the Joker in the last 3 years, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we're back into our regular schedule now with filibusters. So, of course, we've got to... this is the first on-air version that we've done for a while, but it's 52 films by women, where each week we highlight films directed by women. And so, what have you got for us, Lee? Have you got something from the festival you want to share? Or...
Yeah, well, I'm going for one that people will be able to kind of see now, and I'm going to sort of make a bit of a double bill with my last one. The Father of My Children by Mia Hansen-Løve is part of a Mia Hansen-Løve double bill on Mubi at the moment. So it's all about a filmmaking kind of producer. He's got it all: a wife he loves, 3 delightful children, a stimulating job. He discovers talented filmmakers and develops films. All sounds very exciting. It's a dream. But the production company's on its last legs, and the film sort of follows his kind of life as it sort of crumbles a little bit around him. So catch that one as sort of a double bill on Mubi alongside the incredible Goodbye First Love, which I recommended last week. What about for yourself?
Well, I'm going to go with something from the festival, and so unfortunately people will not be able to see it for a long, long time, but we did mention on our preview episode about a film called Saint Maud, and this is directed by a British director called Rose Glass. And this was one of the sort of highlights of the festival. It was just sitting outside of the top 5 for me, and it's about a young woman who's a sort of caregiver, sort of private nurse, who goes to this big house in Scarborough, of all places, to set your elevated horror films. It's great to see a sort of small town like that being featured on the big screen, and she's sort of looking after an American dancer who is succumbing to cancer and trying to make her life as peaceful as possible, but also ended up wanting to try and save her soul because she's got these religious views. And again, it's one of these films which goes to places that you don't really expect. And it has one of the people talked about, there was rumours of a jump scare in this film, and I wasn't really sure when it was coming. You'd said something about a shoe, so I was thinking something to that. But then when this moment arrived at the end, I nearly at the Q&A put my hand up to ask for a new pair of trousers, because I nearly shat them, because I literally jumped out of my seat at that point, because it came at a moment that I was not expecting. And a very, very effective. It's probably one of the best jump scares since The Descent and The Orphanage, but also it's probably up there with perhaps one of a similar actual film that you could compare it to, Exorcist 3 as well. So it's definitely one of the top films that I saw at the festival, and one that you will eventually be able to see. Hasn't got a confirmed release date, but it has been picked up by A24, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That was one of the highlights of the festival for me, and one I think I saw it before you, and I was like, Dallas, we need to be able to talk about this film. Go see this film. Go see this film. I basically bullied you into that cinema. Not that it took much persuasion.
Oh no, I was already going to do it, but I was a victim of the View numbering ticketed system on day one, so unfortunately I missed that one, and I had to rearrange my entire schedule after that. As you know, like a domino effect, you miss one thing, everything then sort of moves out of place. But I did manage to see it, and I was very glad that I did. And she won one of the awards at prior to the festival about sort of one of the best sort of British upcoming directors. So I think this one's going to really appeal to the sort of the people who enjoy like The Witches and sort of Ari Aster's films and stuff like that. I think it's going to play interesting to see what they do with this in America, given it's a very sort of British sort of film. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that. And that sort of brings us to the end of this episode. But keeping on the sort of the horror theme, next week something wicked this way will come, as we're going to welcome back Kim to join us to curate our very own filibuster Halloween all-night marathon. Are you looking forward to this one, Lee? Because this was your suggestion, wasn't it?
Yeah, like I'm one of those people, like I'm not a horror expert, but especially compared to you guys, and I always think it's quite fun to see how would people program their own all-night horror madness. Obviously, with your background of sort of working within cinemas, Kim's background as being like the horror expert, and mine is like, well, we'll have to wait and see. I think it'll be really interesting to see probably three very unique takes, and I can imagine it will probably be very nerdy, me thinking about logistics and timings and themes and so on. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Absolutely. So yeah, you can join us for that, and that'll drop on Wednesday the 30th, so it'll be time for you to basically go out and buy all the films that we recommend and stream them on your own horror or night marathons. Obviously we do not recommend that you stay up all night watching horror movies, because it can be quite scary, and also if you're going to be tired for the work the next day, we're not going to be held responsible, but I think we'll have some good suggestions for you. So in the meantime, if people want to chat about the films that they saw at the London Film Festival with you and maybe give some recommendations, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo. What about yourself?
And you can get me at ChampCelluloid. So, yep, that's been great. And we'll catch you next week for some horror madness. We'll see you then. Bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.